Well, it's pretty fitting that we get an album such as this at this time of the year. You know, it's getting into spooky season, so I'm glad that we have some spooky music to usher us forth. Let's dive into it. Spooky actions at a distance from Pattern Seeking Animals. So, Pattern Seeking Animals is I think they're from the US. Yeah, I think most of them are from the US. They're a US prog rock band, kind of coming out of the, I don't even want to say ashes of Spock's Beard, because yeah, no, I think Spock's Beard still has some life in them, even though their last album was put out, what, 2017, 2018? But long-term Spock's Beard kind of ghostwriter, or, you know, helping them out with songwriting ship and whatnot, John Bohegold, I believe it is, Bo G Gold, has kind of orchestrated and created this Pattern Seeking Animals with other Spock's Beard personnel of Ted Leonard on lead vocals and guitars, bassist Dave Moreau, and Jimmy Keegan on drums. So the four of them have banded together to kind of create this offshoot. And even saying it's an offshoot of Spock's Beard, I feel doesn't give these guys kind of enough credit, because it really does have its own identity. Like, yes, it sounds very similar to the last three albums from Spock's Beard, but honestly, I think this has their own signature and their own sound that is distinct from Spock's Beard. I mean, they put out their first album in 2019, that was self-titled, followed up in 2020 with Prehensile Tales, which might honestly be my favorite of theirs. Last year's Only Passing Through was fine. It was a good, you know, next album from them. And on that heels, we have Spooky Action at a Distance. So with a band that's put out 4 albums in the past 5 years, I always kind of take a little bit of a reservation. I'm like, well, are they doing too much too soon? You know, now I know some bands can maintain this kind of album cycle, you know, especially if they're not out touring the album cycle, like look at King Gizzard. But I always kind of get a feeling of like, is it too much too soon? Are they not allowing the ideas to kind of root themselves, especially since these albums aren't necessarily short? Like, it'd be one thing if these albums are anywhere between 30 to 45 minutes, but this album's over an hour. If I were to summarize this album, it would fall somewhere in like, it's fine, but there's not a lot that it really begs to be listened to. And I will come out and say that I've never been a massive fan of Pattern Seeking Animals. Very similar to I wasn't a massive fan of the last 2 Spock's Beard albums. You know, I'm kind of in that same vein where, you know, the Obliviation Particle and Noise Floor or Floor Noise were kind of my 2 least favorite newer Spock's Beard albums. And this kind of feels like it's the cream of the crop from that era of Spock's Beard, you know, and that era of the Spock's Beard was kind of my least favorite. So, like, I've always wanted to really, really like Pattern Seeking Animals, and each of their albums, the most that I could say is that they were fine. They were fine, you know? I didn't find them overly offensive. I didn't find them overly aggravating or confusing or anything like that. It was good modern prog music that had a little bit of a leaning towards the retro side of things, you know? And that's kind of what I feel on this album as well. The standout tracks off of this album are The Man Made of Stone, He Once Was, Somewhere North of Nowhere, and Summoned from Afar. And I think when these boys are furthest away from Spock's Beard, I like it the most. And that's really where John Boingold really shines, you know, because I know that he's been a producer and an orchestrator for like soundtracks and whatnot. And when the songs feel more like a spaghetti western or more soundscapey or something that I would hear from like a score for a movie or something like that, that's where I'm most interested and the most excited for. Like, those are the moments that I'm most memorable about. But when they're getting too close to the, you know, Feel the Euphoria or the Obliviation Particle from Spock's Beard, that's when I start to tap out and step out of the actual landscape itself. So for those 4 tracks, I appreciate that they're trying something new. They're trying something a little bit different. I mean, it's for that fact that He Once Was is the longest track off of the album at over 12 minutes that, I enjoy that, and I've always enjoyed Spock's Beard's longer tracks, and I've always enjoyed Pattern Seeking Animals' longer tracks as well. It's with those smaller tracks that I'm always hesitant for. What awaits me under the Orphan Mood, Clouds That Never Rain, and Love Is Still the Light. I'm less than excited for these tracks. Most of these are on the slower side. They're a little bit more on the somber and moodier side. And this is where I just don't feel all that connected with the band. They're trying to be a little bit more heartfelt. They're trying to be a little bit more somber. And I'm okay with that if they do it very sparingly. Like 1 or 2 tracks maximum on this album would have been fine. But the fact that we have like 5 of these tracks, like over half of them are this kind of style of music that I'm not as excited about. It's very treading water in that sense. I don't feel like anything really is being added to this album overall. If this album were cut practically in half, like this album's over an hour long, as I mentioned, if they trimmed it to about like 45 minutes worth of music and really developed those aspects that make this album unique, I think we would have had something really, really special. But that being said, I still enjoy those moments that make this album special. Like, if nothing else, I would recommend checking out Somewhere North of Nowhere, which has that more spaghetti western, that more soundscapey style to it that I really gravitate to. But I think at the end of the day, the thing that this album is missing is some really good hooks. I'm missing some really good hooks, some really good meaty aspects to make me come back to it, Ted Leonard's guitar playing is still outstanding. His moments on He Once Was, as well as The Window to the World, have some really, really interesting and really, really fantastic moments on it. But yeah, I don't know. There's still something about Pattern Seeking Animals that I want to like, but I've never really felt all that excited for. So yeah, this is another one that hasn't quite converted me to them, but at the same time, I don't feel like I want to run and turn off the radio. Like this is kind of harmless, but in so being, I don't feel all that compelled to immediately run out for this one. So I guess in that being said, if you weren't a convert to Pattern Seeking Animals in the past, you're not going to be converted with this one. So yeah, another good addition to their discography. It is pretty solid, but it's just fine. It's just fine. So it's for that reason that I'll say Spooky Action at a Distance by Pattern Seeking Animals is one I would ultimately stream. I would recommend giving it a listen. If you're a fan of Spock's Beard, if you're a fan of any of these boys' side projects or whatnot, honestly, give it a spin. It might be up your alley, but just go in knowing that it's not like groundbreaking or earth-shattering in any stretch of the imagination. It's fine. But that's what I've got. So what did you guys think about this album? It releases tomorrow, or if you're watching this in the future, it's already out. So let me know of your thoughts about this album, if you loved it, if you hated it, by commenting down below. And a reminder, I've got a podcast, Quid Pro Quo, that is coming up. I believe next Friday we'll have a new episode for you. And it's going to be on YouTube as well. So I've left the link down below for the YouTube. I'm really excited for that. And don't forget to check out my podcast, The Metalhead. Grace Hayhurst and I have a great time talking about metal music, and we're slowly transitioning it more into the prog vein. So I hope you guys will check that out too. And that's all I've got for you guys. So thank you all so much for watching. As always, you guys are definitely the best. And until next time, notes out.